Donald Cerrone, in his prime, was one of the scariest and most exciting lightweights on the planet, and his signature move was the head kick. He's knocked out countless people with this head kick, and even though everyone knows it's coming, he's very, very good at setting it up in multiple different ways, landing it with his left leg, his right leg, with a variety of different setups. Now, today we're going to be looking at a variety of his head kick KOs to help build our understanding of how to land head kicks in MMA. And while they're a very deadly strike, they take a lot of effort and skill to set up. So we're going to be breaking down a couple of his head kick KOs. And yeah, let's get into it. Against John Makdessi, Donald Cerrone was able to land the high kick early and rock Makdessi. However, after that, Makdessi kind of picked up on the timing and what cues Cerrone would give away, and he began to start moving to Cerrone's right to avoid the high kick and started blocking it as well if it got too close. Now, Cerrone picked up on this a couple of times as he threw out the head kick quite a lot during the first round. He starts peppering with switch kicks to the body and switch kicks to the leg to, mix up the target. It's the good thing with the switch kick and the lead kick in general is no matter the target, it all kind of looks the same, especially with that lead leg inside kick. A lot of people sort of scoot their hips out of the way to get away from it, and it'll leave their head exposed. Cerrone jabs, throws an inside leg kick, switches to reset his feet and follow Makdessi as he's circling out. That the switch is really important to reset that angle. And then he throws the head kick, lands flush, breaks Makdessi's jaw, and fight's over. Key takeaway from this is, I'd say, pairing the switch high kick with the switch kick to the leg. It's a very, very good setup. You don't have to use them in conjunction with each other like Cerrone does. You can, pepper inside kicks throughout the fight and then just whip up a high kick. It'll, give you a pretty good result as well. But blending into them together is also really good as it catches some people off guard when you double up with kicks. Now, in Cerrone's KO over Jim Miller, it's important to note that they are in opposite stance. Cerrone in orthodox, Jim Miller in southpaw. Jim is a shorter, stockier lightweight that likes to come forward. Cerrone, wanting to keep Miller at range, starts throwing a lot of rear snap kicks to the body. Not to try and push Miller away, but to do damage. And he's able to hurt Miller multiple times with this kick. Now, the good thing about push kicks in general is if you chamber your strikes, they can look like many other techniques. So a push kick can look like a body kick can look like a push kick, it can look like a head kick, it can look like a lot of different things. And Cerrone chambers his head kicks pretty well as well. So after hurting Miller a couple times to the body, he whips up a head kick, chambers it first, Miller believes it's coming to the body, gets domed with the head kick instead, finishes the fight. Now, important thing to take away from this is probably how to, use those rear push kicks and snap kicks within, or using them to set up head kicks, right? The startup is really important for both the techniques and being able to blend them together consistently throughout the fight. Another thing is that Cerrone established respect with the strike that he used to set up the head kick, right? If Miller wasn't respecting that snap kick, he wouldn't have really bit on the feint for it. So it's really important to make sure your opponent fears the strike you're throwing or using to feint your other technique first. Now, against Matt Brown, he was able to land the head kick multiple times throughout this fight, and quite frequently. So Brown was in a much lower stance than he normally is. He didn't really want to play the Muay Thai game with Cerrone that much, and Cerrone was able to blend together punching combinations and then whip up that left high kick as Brown was sort of exiting the exchange, sort of with his hands down trying to parry away stuff, and that ended up getting caught a couple of times. However, Brown was working the jab to the body a lot in this fight, and it's a really good tactic against, Cerrone, who's a tall guy, doesn't like pressure boxing. However, Brown wasn't exiting, out of that range quick enough. The jab to the body is a very long strike, but so is a head kick. Brown was staying low for too long. And eventually in the third round, after a good scrap, right, you're tired, you're hurt, right, he was cut, he was a bit busted up. You're not going to be as fast as you were in the first 2 rounds. And eventually goes for a jab to the body, takes too long. Cerrone whips up a perfect switch head kick as Matt's still pulling out of the exchange, and just beautiful work, puts Matt down clean. Now, takeaway from this fight, I would say, would be using the head kick as a counter to your opponent going low, especially with a jab. Let people will throw a jab to the body, somewhat non-committally, and just whipping up a high kick from there, it's not that difficult. Even if you're not super flexible, if someone's jabbing in the body and you whip up a high kick, it's relatively easy to do. So, very impressive KO there. Against Melvin Gillard, he was cracked early and hard, and Gillard was on him from the get-go, trying to swarm him. And Cerrone isn't a dude that deals with pressure very well, let alone people that punch extremely hard like that. Now, Cerrone is able to recover, and he pumps out a jab. He leaves it out there, disguises the switch, still has his jab hand out there, lands the switch kick to the dome, puts Gillard out badly. Now, the important takeaway from this is using that lead hand to sort of blind your opponent. This obviously works with the switch kick, but you can also do this with a cross and the right kick. You see a lot of people talking about like the Leon Edwards head kick where you disguise it, the rear kick with a cross. You can do that with the lead hand as well if you're setting up like lead high kicks, and it works very, very effectively, especially to disguise the switch, as a lot of people will struggle with sort of managing the speed of that switch. A lot of people feel it takes too long or that it's not quick enough with it. So that little extra jab and leaving it out there helps disguise it and make it more effective. So anyway, guys, that is the breakdown. I just wanted to bring a bit of highlight to Donald Cerrone's career and his skill set, as, in his prime, when he was on that run to the lightweight title, he was an absolute killer, and I think it gets overlooked a lot because of the losing streak he had at the end. But when this man was on, he was incredibly good. During his prime, he beat guys like Adriano Martins, Edson Barboza, Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez when he came to the UFC, Benson Henderson, John McDessie's a pretty good win, right? Matt Brown, right? Ally Quinta, he's doing these by like really, really good finishes. And in his prime, he was incredibly exciting, had great Muay Thai, a bit lacking in the defense department, but it was always really, really satisfying to watch. And he had some insane submission skills as well. He was really good on the ground. A lot of his wins in the beginning of his career, he was actually submitting pretty much everyone. I'm looking at it now. His first 8 wins were all by submission. It wasn't until he fought Charles Oliveira that he got his first TKO win. But ever since then, he was just racking up knockout after knockout. And he's an incredibly skilled fighter. So I really do recommend going back to earlier in his career, watching some of those fights. It's a really exciting style. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts on those techniques down in the comments below. I'm more than happy to have a discussion with everyone, and I'll see you guys later.